As the first canonical Dragon Ball material in almost 20 years, Dragon Ball Super was first met with equal parts excitement and caution from fans. After the poor reception of Dragon Ball GT years back, you can hardly blame them. But after a bit of a rocky start, Super has really found its stride and worked its way into the hearts of long-time viewers. Taking place only a few short months after the defeat of Majin Buu, Super stories starts with Goku and Z fighters enjoying much-deserved peace with their family and friends. However, being of terrible power is awoken and aims to challenge the legendary Saiyan warrior who defeated Buu. Just like in Z, the power levels jump exponentially with the arrival of a new foe, and our heroes will have to dig deeper than ever to match the power of a god. This series is the true successor to Dragon Ball Z, as everything fans have come to expect. Great character development, epic battles, and new power techniques. However, there are plenty of things about the series even some loyal fans don't know. Dragon Ball Evolution inspired Toriyama to write again. After an epic series, Dragon Ball Z came to an end in 1996. You might be surprised to know that Akira Toriyama felt relieved, while the rest of us were bracing ourselves for Dragon Ball withdrawal. Toriyama was, as he put it, happy to be finally liberated from deadline hell. He felt that he told the story that he wanted to, and was fine leaving the future of the franchise in the hands of others. Well, when that happened, we got the much-panned Dragon Ball GT, which is disliked by the vast majority of the fandom. However, a movie would soon come out that made GT look like the Cell Saga. Dragon Ball Evolution, the live-action disaster, was so hated that it was partially responsible for Toriyama writing the new Dragon Ball material. Toriyama stated, "Dragon Ball once became a thing of the past to me. But after that, I got angry with the live-action movie and I rewrote an entire movie script." Though we can always hate on Evolution, we should also be thankful it was so bad or we might have never gotten Super. Belmont and Margarita were originally lovers. In the current Tournament of Power arc, the strongest fighters from 8 of the 12 universes are competing for their very survival. If a team loses, the entire universe is erased from existence by Zeno. The only being spared erasure are the angels, of which each universe has one. Our god and angel are Beerus and Whis, but the other universes have theirs too, and one of the more memorable pairs is Universes 11's Belmont and Margarita. Many universes contain references to other anime or pop culture, and these two are made to look like the Joker and Harley Quinn. Originally, Toyotaro made them to be something close to a romantic couple in the manga, but an example of Toriyama's selective vetoes told him that it should be changed. Toriyama felt that because the angels are personally dispatched by Zeno, their roles would be strictly business, despite being able to have feelings. We can't argue with that logic, and it's probably for the best since the god of destruction seems to have plenty of personality and gusto. It makes sense for the angels to be calmer and more detached to guide them. Jiren was almost introduced sooner. Jiren is currently the strongest mortal character in the multiverse of Dragon Ball Super. He's so powerful that he is said to be on par with a god of destruction. Whis says that he may even be able to surpass one if he tried. This seems to be wild, but based on his performance thus far, they are absolutely true. Even at 20 times Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, Goku is not even close to his power level. We are introduced to him in episode 85, but we almost saw him a bit earlier. He was originally set to debut in the Zen exhibition match, where some representatives of Universe 11 are seen observing the battles. Clad in black hood, alongside Belmont and Margarita is Toppo, leader of Universe 11's team, but it was first written as Jiren. He was also stated to debut in episode 82 when Goku has a one-on-one fight with Toppo, but the idea was nixed to save his debut for episode 85 when Toppo gathers the members of the Pride Troopers for the tournament. Most of Gohan's scenes are filler. Thus far, there have been 19 filler episodes of Super, and Gohan is in many of them. While the show has gotten very good, it's had a few bumps along the way. Episodes 15 to 17 centre around the birth of Pan, Gohan and Vidal's daughter, as well as a silly subplot involving Mr. Satan putting on a martial arts tournament and once again having to hide his lack of any powers. Later on, after the mini-tournament between users 6 and 7, Gohan returns with the sick Pan, who has to be healed by a Dragon Ball wish. In the same arc, he goes on to star in a film with Mr. Satan and has to take care not to let his secret identity as the Great Saiyaman. He is blackmailed into flying a co-star around the city and must dodge the suit of intergalactic patrolman Jago. Gohan is now a top member of the Universe 7 team in the Tournament of Power, so let's hope we've seen the last of his lackluster filler adventures for a good one. The anime is the main product, not the manga. One of the big changes in Super from Z is in the earlier series the manga would be released first and the anime would come after, leaving the series to come up with filler episodes if they caught up. This time around the roles are reversed, as Super is the main product while the manga is the adaptation. Before the manga for Z would be published in the weekly Shonen Jump, but now the manga can fall behind despite the first issue being released on the same day the anime. There are some differences between them, however. For example, the Resurrection of F storyline is completely absent in the manga because Toyotaro had already made a manga for a movie release. Also, there is only a brief telling of the events from Battle of Gods movie instead of the entire epic story we got in the film. Going forward, it is impossible to tell if the manga will fall behind again, but even if it does, we can be sure of a quality product in the hands of Toyotaro. Akira Toriyama was not the head writer. Akira Toriyama had reached godlike status among the anime fans as creator of all things Dragon Ball. In the older days, countless pages of the manga were drawn by the man itself, as well as all the writing duties. Now, things are different. Toriyama stepped back from the trenches a bit and only wrote major parts of the arcs, while much of the detail in between are handled by his hand-picked successor, Toyotaro. The same is true for the manga adaptation. This marks the first time in history of Dragon Ball canon that the creator doesn't have hands-on directly in everything. Toyotaro's role should not be misunderstood as a filler position, as he regularly involved in not just the writing and art but also the character development and major plot details. Though Toriyama still had the stroke to change almost everything, he has gone on to record in saying that he has no desire to and has full confidence in Toyotaro's vision and his ideas that make the product better. Dragon Ball Super is written with a general outline rather than a detailed plot. As previously mentioned, Toriyama personally selected Toyotaro to be his successor, and now is considered the main writer and artist. Toriyama's role was limited, and his outline left a lot of room for creative direction from his apprentice. Toriyama's major plot points included the start and ends of major arcs such as Battle of Gods, Golden Frieza and the Tournament of Power, as well as calling audibles on things like character design. For example, Beerus was originally designed to be much different than he is seen, as a lizard-like alien, but Toriyama changed his design to a cat-like alien after his own cat made a miraculous recovery from illness. In the Tournament of Power, the winners and some eliminations are outlined by Toriyama, but much of the fights within and eliminations are left to Toyotaro. This is a huge amount of work because there are dozens of fighters and even more potential matchups, but Toyotaro seemed fully capable of handling it since the tournament is probably the best part of the series. Just far, and fans are loving it. Goku Black is a rehash of a previous villain. Although not canon, the Dragon Ball movies do have a place in the hearts of fans and aren't going to forget them anytime soon. The third Z movie, The Tree of Might, centers around a group of evil aliens looking for a good spot to plant a tree that will drain the planet it's planted on of its energy. This group is led by a Saiyan called Turles, who looks exactly like Goku. Aside from having slightly different hair and perhaps a bit of a bulkier build, Turles can pass for his body double. He is essentially functions as an evil counterpart to Goku, and in fact was referred to by many fans as Evil Goku for a long time. Turles isn't the worst villain in the franchise, but he has always come off as a bit creatively lazy, not to mention that there is also Goku's father, Bardock, who also looks just like him. When Goku Black first showed up in the series, the comparisons were made right away and still persist a bit now. Black could be considered even more of a lazy choice because he is literally Goku's body, only possessed by the rogue guy Zamasu. The animation has had occasional hiccups. Earlier episodes of Super had some problems, namely that the story of the Battle of Gods was just being stretched out into a series arc of about a 90-minute movie that was released 2 years earlier. However, there was one more glaring problem. The animation quality would sometimes become noticeably awful at several points. After a torrent of fan complaints, former Dragon Ball producer Norihiro Hayashida was interviewed and said that the criticisms were overly harsh and that fans should be more forgiving. He stated, "The animators responsible for these scenes are newbies who just started working at this level in the industry, which means their skills are evolving right now. Anyway, they are good animators, and I just do not understand why they get picked on to such a degree." Maybe not the best excuse for a poor product, but at least it's honest. The time constraints for the animation industry are reportedly more strict in Japan than the US, so perhaps they needed to outsource some of their work out of necessity and not just to save a few bucks. Things have improved a lot since. Let's hope it stays that way. Super's had the first canonical power-ups in 20 years. Having new characters and villains is great and always welcome, but fans really want to see new power-ups and transformations in Super. They weren't disappointed either, because in order to keep up with the new power levels that the main fighters like Goku and Vegeta had, pretty much everyone else needed substantial increases to be relevant. Goku and Vegeta had the Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue forms from the 2 new movies, as well as latest Goku power-up called Ultra Instinct. Along the way, they both received increases while training with Whis as well. Z fighters on the power levels also greatly increased their viability as Krillin and Tien Shinhan drew out their full potential, putting them in the millions and tens of millions in power levels, respectively. Even lowly Yamcha managed to reach full potential and bring his power level to over 1 million. The power-ups are not limited to our heroes though, because we saw Frieza increase to the point where he might be stronger than Goku and Vegeta and several of the new fighters from the multiverse, and also gained power during the tournament. Trunks is the unofficial apprentice of Supreme Kai. Back at Dragon Ball Z, future Trunks came from a timeline where he trained with the Supreme Kais and received his trademark sword. He is also able to eliminate the threat of Majin Buu before it was able to get started. One of the abilities that the apprentices of the Supreme Kais receive when they take up their position is healing. Now, when Trunks unknowingly kept Gowasu and Future May alive whenever they were near death, he was unaware that his ability was granted due to his apprenticeship to Shin. This power can only be used by the apprentice and not by the full Supreme Kai, as the real Supreme Kai laments that he can no longer heal since being promoted. We can also see that Zamasu, due to being a disciple and never being granted full Supreme Kai status, can also use healing up until his death. So even though it was never explicitly stated, all evidence points to Trunks still maintaining the status of apprentice to the Supreme Kai despite them being dead in his timeline. Since there is no one left to promote him, Trunks will likely keep this power indefinitely. The Gods of Destruction cannot exist without the Supreme Kais. The God of Destruction was introduced in the new movies and series and serve as the counterpart to the Supreme Kais, who are the Gods of Creation. We've learned a lot about them since Beerus was first introduced. For example, we learned that they are not divine by nature, but rather up-jumped mortals of great strength who are selected based on their power to be raised to god status, unlike the angels like Whis, who were never mortal. Perhaps the most surprising revelation is that the gods of destruction are not tied to the Kais, just symbolic counterparts, but their very existence is dependent on one another. Simply put, if the Kais of a universe are somehow killed, the god of destruction of that universe will also cease to exist. This is a huge deal and explains how Zamasu was able to run Rough's Hood in Trunks' timeline. He killed the Supreme Kai so he wouldn't have to face the wrath of Beerus, who would have certainly killed him. It seems that the gods of destruction were invincible at first, but this revelation put their fate completely out of their hands. The angels are the only beings immune to being erased. The angels were first assumed to be the servants of the gods of destruction when we saw Beerus clearly taking command during his first appearances. However, it is revealed later that it is actually Whis who is the teacher in the pair, which was shocking for several reasons. It meant that Whis was even stronger than Beerus, who himself wielded power on a level not seen before. It was also revealed that each god has an angel, not just to teach and guide them, but to keep them in check to make sure they don't use their powers too loosely. When it was revealed that every being in the universe that lost their tormented power would be erased, it was also revealed that the angels were the only ones immune to this fate. Gods of destruction are appointed, and when an angel has no god to watch over and guide, they don't die, but rather lay dormant in a state akin to suspended animation. Angels are extremely strong, much more than any mortal being, so it seems that their high status in the multiverse is what gives them this immunity. New gods of destruction can always be elevated, but angels cannot be replaced so easily. More people are killed in Super than in any other Dragon Ball show. Despite being the protagonist and having more fights than anyone else in the series, Goku's only had 2 kills in all of Dragon Ball Z. Vegeta has more, as does Trunks, and the Buu arc saw the destruction of most of the known universe. However, this all pales in comparison to the wholesale death shown in Super. Zeno, the most powerful being in existence, is essentially God. He can erase entire universes with a snap of his fingers, and it is he who organises the tournament of power. It seems he had planned to erase everything, but due to his meeting with Goku, decided to give him a fight. Naruhito Sumitomo is scoring the series. If you don't recognise the name Naruhito Sumitomo, you have certainly heard of his work if you were a fan of the series. Sumitomo is an accomplished musician and composer with a wide range of experience, and can now be considered the man behind the music of Dragon Ball, taking over for legendary Shunsuke Kikichi. Sumitomo scored the last 2 recent films, Battle of Gods and Resurrection of F, as well as the Buu saga of Dragon Ball Kai. Additionally, he is composing music for the new series Dragon Ball Super. His work in Dragon Ball has been well received by fans and critics alike, and we can be sure that the music for the rest of the series is in safe hands. That's all for today, and if you have any more ideas on videos that I can do for the future, please let me know down in the comments.